Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, Ashley's Treasure, and I'm going to show you how I made a wedding card, and I was inspired by this picture I found on Pinterest. This was the back of the invitation card that they gave us, and so I kind of wanted to go off from that. I wanted to do either craft cardstock or cards made out of craft. It's 5.5 by 4, and so the white paper that I made it a quarter of an inch shorter, and I actually put it through my Tim Holtz 3D embossing folder to give more of that wood grain, since it was already wood grain paper, and so now it has the texture as well. And then I used my little We Are Memories brad tool, and I used it to make 4 little holes on each corner and put these little brads that looks like nails. And I used the silver one because apparently the groom is going to wear some silver, and the bride, of course, is going to wear a white dress but going to have some purple, but it's going to be like a fall theme wedding, so it was kind of hard to go off from. But I used this tool to distress all 4 sides of the paper, give more of that distressed look, and I also tore a little bit on all 4 sides. I used this hemp cord to make the bow like I saw on the picture, and I kept on going back and forth if I liked it or not, and eventually I ended up removing it, but at the time it looked really cute. And somehow when I cut that, I ended up pinching my finger in the scissors. How I did that, I have no idea. Typical of me. But I found the perfect stamp, which is from Echo Park, and I think it was from the Bless collection, but on the back it says Mr. and Mrs. Stamp. I think it was called Wedding Bliss. But I love that it turned out perfect, and so I inked it up really good with my Versamark ink. And I ended up having to do it twice because at the first time it didn't go on completely. And then I started to use my clear embossing powder. It always makes the black stand out better. I always love using it. I use it quite often. And as I was putting it back in the bottle, I realized that I stamped on the wrong side of the cardstock, because on craft, one side is more fuzzy and one part is more smooth. But I tried it out anyway since I got that far, and ended up working fine. So I got my heating tool out and heated it up, and I always love that look. It's always fun to watch. But yeah, it turned out perfect. But I realized that the paper was a little bit thicker than I needed it to, so I ended up trimming it, and I made sure it was going to look good because that's where I was going to place it on the bottom right corner. But I trimmed off the excess, and it ended up being a little bit thicker than I wanted to because this was scraps. But I ended up cutting it a little bit shorter down than I wanted to, but it still looked fine. Then I got my art glitter glue out and glued the back of this cardstock, and I made sure that I got all over the brads to make sure that that stuck, and all over the hemp cord to make sure it would all stick well. And because the cardstock that I used, it was the heavy duty, and also when I put it through the 3D embossing folder, I also mixed it with some water to help emboss it better. That was one of the tricks I learned from Tim Holtz himself. He showed that in one of his videos. But yeah, I just glued that down really good, and I used this tool to press it down and make sure it was all down firmly. And then I found out that there was something inside the card that left like a mark, which I was kind of bummed out. I didn't realize that till after I already had it glued down, so I had to work with what I already did because I didn't want to start all over again. And then one of the parts that I had tore right there, accidentally when I glued it, it like started closing, so I had to like re-distress it again. And then I wanted to do like a little fishtail at the Mr. and Mrs. sign, and I accidentally kind of did it a little crooked right there, so I had to fix it. But that's when I started getting all these leaves out, which actually a couple days ago, my son and I, we went in the woods and found a bunch of leaves specifically for this. And we had so much fun. There's like this little creek, and I told my son, don't step in it so you won't get your shoes wet. And what did he do? He jumped inside of it, and he couldn't help it. He was having so much fun, kept jumping in it and saying canyon ball, and he got completely soaking wet, but he had so much fun. It was hard not to. But then when we got home, you know, he was soaking wet, so I threw him in the tub and I left the plants outside, and I completely forgot about him. So today I did the dry press, you know, microwaving them for a few seconds and everything, and they did turn out pretty good. So it was really hard. I was trying to find ones that had a purple. I found that those specific little maple ones that had some purple in it, and I was trying to get a variety of colors. It was actually kind of hard to find ones with orange that were small. Like I could find big leaves that were orange, but not small ones. And then this took forever. I was hem-hawing back and forth which flowers to use and how to lay them out. And finally, I decided how I liked it. And then I started gluing them down with my art glitter glue and place them on just right. And this is where I end up taking that hemp off of it, that bow that I had on there, because it was just in the way. And that's why I was having such a hard time laying the leaves down, because it was too much of a distraction. So, and plus I already had it glued down, so I had to trim off what was showing, but it worked. And then I end up using more art glitter glue to glue it all down, and I used square foams on the back of the Mr. and Mrs. so that it would lay flat over the leaves. And there was a little piece of the yellow leaf that was hanging out, so I had to cut that off because I didn't want anything showing underneath it. And then I got my walnut stain, distress ink, and distressed the little sign there, the Mrs. and Mrs. And then I also did it all around the card as well, from the outside and the inside of it. Both sides, from the inside and then the outside. And then I found this perfect stamp that says "Together is a beautiful place to be," which I thought would be a good saying for a wedding card, since they're gonna be together forever now, since now they're getting married. And so I placed that in just right, and I was going to use my VersaFine ink again. I always love using this one for doing lettering, because it always gets that fine line. So I inked it up really good, and it took me quite a few times actually just to get it right. But that's why I love using this, because every time if you don't get it right, you know, it can re-ink and it goes right at the exact same spot again. And then I used my clear embossing powder again so that it would match all the rest of the stamping that I did, because it always makes it pop out more. And then that also, once it's dry, you don't have to worry about it stamping onto something else. So then I realized that I forgot to use my static resistant powder on it. So luckily I didn't take the stamp off. So I hurried up, took the embossing powder off, used my static, and then re-inked the stamp and then re-stamped it again. So I was so glad that I removed it, because if I removed it, then I'd have to start all over again. And here, finally, I can use the embossing powder and it only sticking where I wanted it to stick. And it did work out good. And then, of course, using my heating tool, I always love watching it heat up. And then I also heat the back of it to help straighten it, because when you press the heat on it, sometimes it makes your paper bend. And then I got my tool back out to emboss, or not emboss, but distress all four edges again. And then I was trying to get like all the, you know, excess parts that were gonna fall off. I was just trying to kind of pick off what was just hanging there. It's always messy doing it, but it always looks so good. I do it all the time. It's so worth it. And then I did a little tear on all four sides again to add more character to it. I always love doing that. I do it a lot with my scrapbooking. And so that way it now looks like the same as on the white paper on the cover of the card. And then I got my card out. See how I distressed all four sides and even the center on both sides. And then I was gonna use my ATG gun to just tape it down, but since I distressed the edges and since it's heavy cardstock, I just used my art glitter glue, so I knew that it was gonna stick and it wasn't gonna come off at all. So I ended up using that, and I kept pressing it on really good to make sure it was all stuck well and wouldn't come off and stay there forever. And then I had some extra little foliage, so I thought I would use it, and I still never used any of those little bows that I made, so I thought I would use that little leaf and that little tip of fern and that little ribbon, and I closed it to see how much dimension it would leave, and it wasn't too much, you know, it wasn't too thick, so it's not like I was gonna mail it to them because we're actually gonna hand give it to them tomorrow, so I wasn't worried about the dimension. So I used my art glitter glue and glued them down, even the bow. And then I started fussy cutting out these little butterflies because it just needed something else in the cover. And when I was fussy cutting, I realized that after I stamped them, I didn't use the clear embossing because everything else had the clear embossing, but that didn't, so that would stand out and not look right. So I hurried up and did that. I ended up using my Wild Honey Distress ink to distress it to give a little orange look, kind of like the fall look. And I really did like how that looked. So I ended up doing it on all four of them. I had 2 big ones and 2 little ones. And then I realized that I didn't like the white on the butterflies were too white. And so I got mustard seed out and I did the yellow on the center of the butterflies. And then I got the wild honey back out and did it more towards the middle because at first I just did it on the tips. And then I ended up using frayed burlap for on the tips, which now thinking about it, I should have found, actually I don't even know if I have, like a darker purple to use on the tips since they were using purple in the wedding. But that's okay. It still looks really good. And it did help make them stand out more. But I liked it when it went from yellow to orange to brown because it kind of matched with the not flowers, but the leaves, the fall colors. And then I had scraps of that white paper that I have right there, that wood grain. It's actually heavy duty cardstock and that I got from Hobby Lobby. Well, with the scraps, I cut off little pieces to make little like wedges underneath the butterflies to help make the wings pop up. I was gonna just use some foam squares, but they're just 2-dimensional. So if you don't have foam squares, this is the trick that you could use to, you know, if you want something dimensional to make it pop up. You can do this, just fold it in half. And plus I like this more so it was at an angle instead of straight up. And I did little pieces on both sides on all 4 of them. See, as you press in the center, you glue the center down and those parts and it'll look like they're flying. Kind of makes it give a little bit more realistic look since the leaves are real. Kind of helps make the butterflies look more real as well. And so I did it on 3 of the butterflies. The 2 big ones I used on the cover and 1 tiny one on the top left. So I did it to all of them and glued them down. And I kept on pressing down in the center to make sure that the body of the butterfly would stick down and help keep the wings going up so that they would be on there correctly, properly. And I really like how that turned out. I thought they looked really cute. And since I really liked how that looked, I forgot to cut off the end of the leaf and then the the tails on the bow. I had to trim that off so it wasn't hanging off the card, and of course I had to use the other side to make it leveled. And then I thought I would use that last tiny one at the inside as well. That one I didn't make dimensional since the card was going to be shut. The dimension wouldn't work. But yeah, I thought it looked so cute, and I hope that they really, really like it, because I really like how it turned out. This is my first time making a card with real leaves, so I thought that made it even more special for their wedding. And there's the inside. I thought it was so cute. I love the distress to it. I love the little butterflies. And I was able to use the little bow that I wanted to use. It all turned out really cute. And here are some close-ups of it. You can see the butterflies shine. I really like it. I hope you liked it too. Here are some close-ups of it. As you can see, I think it just looks so cute. There's the little screws that I use, the little brads, and the little bow. I just hope you liked it as much as I did. If so, give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. Talk to you later.